Hey guys, so in an attempt to find unusual options activity, I decided to analyze option chains and see what their volumes are in 1 and 5 minute intervals. And just so that I can get a better read and visual on the activity, I decided to build an app for it. Now to get this all working, we're going to need 3 scripts, which are the ones on your screen. And this first script is just the app. So if we go ahead and click on run app, we'll take a look at what it's actually doing. Alright, so here we have 3 options. For the time being, we can select what the volume is compared to 5 minutes ago or compared to 1 minute ago. I'm just going to leave it at 5 minutes. Now the threshold is a percentage, so any option that meets this threshold will get returned in the table and in the graph. And you can also have the option to select the type of option, whether a call or a put, or if you have no preference, we can just select all. Now I have a script running in the background where we're pulling real-time option chain data for the full month of August, and Tesla is reporting earnings after the bell today. So I wanted to see if there's some unusual activity going on in real time. Now the app itself is just for reporting. So if we click on refresh data here, it does take a while to run since it's calculating for the full month of August. Now once it updates, we have a total of 3 outputs. So we have a table meeting the criteria here on the left, and you can sort these by the volume change. So we have selected the 5 minutes, and the top contender here is this call option that rose 25%, bringing the current total volume to 511 within the last 5 minutes. Now it looks like my threshold is a little strict, so we can just modify the volume here. So we'll go ahead and set this to 5. Now we have a little bit more options, and we can sort these by volume change. And we also get a graph that plots the volume change as a percentage for all the contenders in the table above. And we also get a graph of the underlying asset, and the dashed lines represent all the contenders and their strikes. So again, we're just looking at the previous 5 minutes. And you can always change the parameters here at the top, but just remember that we haven't refreshed the data and it's going to be based off of the last refresh. So as an example, I'm just going to change the option type to calls, and we're going to take a look at the 1 minute. And we can always just pull the latest by clicking this button. But maybe we should just focus on one particular option chain instead of having it return the full month, because the calculations that take place in the background do take a while to run. So we're going to go ahead and change this to all again and see all the options, and change the interval to 5 minutes. So that's pretty much all I have for this app for now. It would be nice to add some additional features, but all that's just tailored to user preference. So let's take a look at the actual code itself in case you want to build something similar. So we're going to go ahead and close this out. Now if I pull this up a little bit, you'll see that we have a script running in the background, which would be our very last script here in the tabs. The data feed I'm using is coming from the Trader API, but you can ideally use whatever feed you want as long as it's in real time. And since I decided to schedule this script, there's a couple of checks that need to take place. So first of all, I need to load up all my functions for the Trader API, load up the rquantlib package because we want to check if the current day is an actual trading day. If it is, it'll step into this block. Otherwise, it's just going to print out it's not a trading day, and it'll end the loop. Now if it is a business day, we want to make sure that there's a folder called option chains inside of our working directory, where I'm just going to be dumping all the option chain data. So it'll create that folder if it doesn't exist. Now I'm going to return the current date, and here's where you set the end timestamp, or when you want the script to end for this data pool. So it'll be 5 minutes after the market closes. And we also want to make sure we have the current time, and I changed the time zone to be in New York time. Now while the current timestamp is less than our ending timestamp that we have created here in line 10, it's going to continuously pull the option chain data, and this functions from the Trader API. So I want to pull Tesla options, a max strike count of 20. Now for the range, I have selected out of the money, but you can remove that parameter or change it to all, since the out of the money options will change throughout the day as the underlying price moves around throughout the session. Do we need the underlying quote? We'll make that true since I will be using that in our app. The strategy is single, contract type will be all, and the expiration month will be August. Now I've wrapped this in a try function, so if it doesn't have any errors, we're going to go ahead and save that as an RDS file inside of our option chains folder, and then we're going to pause for 30 seconds, get the current timestamp, and then it's going to do a recheck of whether the current timestamp is less than our ending timestamp. So that's what we're going to be using for the actual data. Now for the second script here, for the time being, I just have 2 functions in here. One is to get the underlying price for my data feed, and the other one is to format the option chain data. So if you don't have that many functions, you can place these two functions in the app script, but I just figured that I'll just leave this how it is for now, since I do plan on adding a couple of features to the app. So this script gets sourced from this first one, which is our app. So we need to set our working directory, load up the required packages, and for our option chain data, we're going to start off by listing all the files inside of my option chain folder. I just want to get the last 20 since I'm only comparing the 1 minute and the 5-minute changes, and since I'm pulling the option chain data every 30 seconds, I don't want the file list to be very lengthy. We're going to go ahead and read in the files. Now if you're using your own data feed, these are all the columns that we're going to need. So we have a description, which is just the option name description. We also want the underlying symbol, the strike price, whether it's a put or a call, the total volume, the mark for the option price, the quote time or the timestamp, and the underlying mark. Now once we have subset our data, we want to make sure we only return options that have volumes greater than 0. We're going to use the underlying mark to get the out of the money only, which will be done in line 18. Now we're going to start off with our calculations. So in line 22, we're going to convert our quote time into an actual timestamp. And since I'm going to be comparing the data to something in the past, I need to create a function that will do that. So here in line 25, we've created this function called get prior volume, pass in our data frame, our current time, and how many minutes before the current time we want to compare it to. And it'll go ahead and return the option volume for however many minutes you pass into this last parameter. Now, once we have that function, we're going to go ahead and use it here in the next block. So to calculate the volume changes, we're going to pass in our data. We're going to group by description or option. We're going to arrange by the timestamps, and we're going to use sapply to return the volume 1 minute ago and 5 minutes ago. So if you want to use something other than 1 and 5, you would just need to add it in here. We only want the latest data record, so that's why I added line 46. And then we're going to ungroup, and we're going to use the results here and pass it into this last block where we're only going to select the description, the underlying symbol, the strike price, whether it's a put or a call, the total volume, the mark, the timestamp, and then our calculation. And this will be for all the records inside of our option chain data. Now, very similarly, we're going to use our folder to extract the mark or the latest stock price for Tesla. So we begin by listing all the files, returning the last 20, reading those files in, and we only want to focus on the timestamp and the mark price for the underline, only return unique cases, and then return the data. And then lastly, for our app script here, we're going to source those two functions from our second script. And for our UI, well, as you saw, we have a couple of inputs where we select the time. So again, if you're going to use something other than 1 or 5 minutes, we just add that in here and select the default. We're going to add the volume threshold. So again, the default will be 10, and it'll be arranged between 0 and 100. The option type, we have all, call, or put, and it defaults to all. And lastly, we have our refresh button, as you saw from the app. So again, every time we hit that refresh button, it'll pull in and recalculate everything according to our functions here in the second script. And inside the server function is where we calculate the percentage change. And again, if you're using something other than 1 or 5 minutes, you would have to add it in here as well, just so that it calculates accordingly. And lastly, we have our outputs, which are the option chain table, the volume spike plot, and then our underlying price compared to the strikes. So that's pretty much all I have for now. I just wanted to create it and see if I noticed anything unusual. So with that, guys, this concludes the video. I hope this was useful information. I'll leave a link down in the description area to my Patreon where you can find the script. Please consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't done so already. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.